April the 12th, income tax weekend. My birthday is April 15th. Yes, and it's income tax day. So no one can
Oh,
forget my birthday. And I had a nice birthday gift to the IRS this
nice.
day as well. So much about being an entrepreneur. But please welcome my co-host Adam Smith and our two guests today, Jeff and Peter from Brand Arctica. And they're going to tell a little bit about who they are, what they do. A little bit of Disney in here again. We have another Disney guest, Adam. So Vance Morris, I think that's who you knew Vance, but Vance was he does Disney tours. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
interested in your Disney, how it ties in with your business. But welcome, Adam. I don't know if you want to say anything before they get started.
Uh, sure. I think just this will make more sense once Peter and Jeff give their background. But I have several questions, most of which tie into brand owners and their emotional connection to things and how they can either take advantage of that or maybe let go of things. But we'll get to that later.
That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about, I don't know who wants to go first, Peter or Jeff. You guys can arm wrestle for it, but who the heck is this like a brand in Antarctica or something? I mean,
Exactly.
you have like a penguin mascot going. What's happening here?
So Brand Arctica is really, it's funny because when looking for a name, everybody knows that finding a name on the internet that's available is like impossible. Everybody seems to have taken the time out of their day to buy every single phrase and word available. So in this case, which is one of the things I love to do, is name things. Yeah, Brand Arctica was all about, I was like, what do? We do branding. We're artists. Those two things start to make sense. And then, well, how does this tie into Antarctica? Well, A, I'm a huge fan. B, it's such an exploratory, adventurous space that there's risk, there's danger, there's things to discover, there's education, there's science, there's mythology, and to me it just made sense to sort of take Brand Arctica and tie it all together as an agency that is all about exploration, that is all about risk taking, that is all about bringing people on an adventure with their brand and their messaging and their opportunities and possibilities, and expanding on that and taking them to places they've never been before. So that's
Exciting. I'm ready to go on an adventure today with you.
yeah. We've been working on our new elevator pitches, because when somebody asks Jeff and I what we do, it's like I'll go on for 20 minutes, then Jeff will prattle on for another 17 minutes, and we're like, what is happening?
Well, you know my favorite ride at Disney is, right? The adventure ride.
Oh yeah, of course, right.
Did you
And we're
you
in a
designed that,
ride.
obviously, right? Was that you? Was that you
Yeah, he
designed?
designed that.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, yeah. I did have a lot to do with some of the audio components that go into the parks and some of the programs that went around the world. So I did have a hand in some of those things. The funny thing is, Sam, I had never been to Disney in my life. Poor child. I had never been to Disney before in my life, and I had already worked there for like 8 years. It was the first time I actually went to Disney. And I was like, what the hell? People are insane.
Hey, by the way, Duncan is just firing off questions from India. So we keep on going. So
Oh my
Duncan,
goodness.
Duncan-
What time is it there?
I was
Yeah,
telling
I don't know what time it is, but I don't know if he's back, but he's been like a globetrotter. Anyway, I'm sorry I
Oh,
interrupted.
so
I just want to call him out.
I had told him last time I went to India on my honeymoon, and it was a ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely a ball. So, anyways, yeah.
Peter, you weren't one of the singers for It's a Small World, though, right?
Yeah, I was the singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that was me. There's also several animatronics, that have been removed in my likeness. It's such a crazy place because working there was an opportunity to learn so much about what, like, not just every other brand in the world. It was really learning about their brand and how they approached the concept, and I love it. I don't think it's really hard for other businesses to just emulate and do that because there's a lot behind it. But when you look at the strategy, just for an example as to the way the path to the what is it, Cinderella's castle, somebody's castle, is tipped down slightly and it inclines towards it, makes it look bigger and kind of drives you to it. And to walk away, you're walking on a slight incline, so it's
It sounds like a Disney tour is in the makes here. By the way.
but it's that weird, like, who thinks of this? We're going to make it more difficult for you to leave. And we talk about this with clients all the time that, when you go on a ride at Disney, where does it end? It always ends in the gift shop. And so for a brand, it's so important to remember that when someone engages you and you have some kind of transactional relationship, always kind of want to find a way to drop them off in the gift shop. So
Yeah, well, let's hear from Jeff, Peter. Jeff's out there patiently. It's your partner in crime. So
Yes.
So how we play here, I'm gonna chime in, and then Adam's the thinker. But he gets aggressive sometimes too. So we're gonna pow at you. And then Duncan is sitting here at 8:00 in India right now, and he's like fired off like 6 questions that we got
already. Holy.
good.
So I'll give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. So my background was in the consumer electronics industry and audio video products, and I worked for a holding company that had a bunch of brands, and that I was in the marketing department, and we had an agency, and so I was on the other side of the agency. I was the client. We had a PR agency. We had production people doing graphic design. We did everything for the product. We did owner's manuals, packaging, everything that you can think of, all of the trade shows, all the stuff that goes with with marketing a brand. Once people started listening through their headphones instead of big floor-spinning loudspeakers in their living room, that industry kind of started heading south, right? Because we had iPods and iPhones and stuff happening. So I left to join a startup. So I got to see like the whole part of bringing a brand to life from dust, right? Like everything, for a couple of years, and then I decided to start my own business as a marketing consultant, which didn't pan out really well. And as soon as I switched gears and went back to what I was really passionate about, which was web development, having that background with e-commerce and all this other stuff that I had, and strategy, I started my own web development business, and I did that for about 8 years. And it really grew that. I was able to work with other agencies as a web developer, and and help them with their user experience on their websites that they were building, because a lot of the creative is great for a website, but it has to convert, right? So you have to have that user experience understanding. What are the paths that people take?
By the way, Duncan is just spewing stuff out here. I
okay.
gotta comment again. He's like, give me the Reader's Digest version. Sorry. Jeff.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, at some point in time, Peter and I worked together, and then he was like, we've done a couple of projects together. We really should, join forces here. And that's kind of how, 4 years now, at least?
So did you adopt Peter, or did Peter adopt you? Or did
No,
you
Peter adopted me. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we adopted each other. In fact,
Yeah.
I think Jeff told me at the time I had a partner that was, a mistake. Not exactly a happy accident either. But like, Jeff was like, yeah, I was like, you should come on board. And he's like, not until you sort of extricate the issue and remove it. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's right. So, Adam dropped in with me for a brief minute, went away for a while. He's like, okay, he's pretty cool. I'll come back and hang out with him. So I got a great partner in Adam. I just wanted to call you out, Adam. So
it's so important.
It is. It's really important, right? Because it has to, and just to touch on that just quickly is that a lot of times people say, there's only 2 partners. How does that work? That you guys must be fighting all the time. And the thing is, we both have really good lanes that are defined. There's some overlap, of course, but we know where each other's strengths are, and I think that's where it really works with a partnership.
Yeah, well, you guys play well off one another. So before we get to Duncan, I want Adam, obviously he had a lot of questions going into this, and then we'll get to Duncan and go from there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot, Sam.
Hey, this is a Disney thing. Just ask about, okay, why did the road go down and up, and then what was the methodology behind that?
Well, I mean, honestly, and I always love to ask kind of general questions on behalf of maybe some of the brands I'm working with, and very new, very small, very still trying to be very scrappy. And so I guess, from you all's perspective and everything you've seen and done, and I do love the many layers deep example you give of like who thinks about putting a sidewalk at a slight downgrade for the sake of just that extra little bit of keeping people where we want them, right? Like, so for a new brand, obviously, whether it's social media or marketing in general or your conversion rate or what, I mean, there's all these things to think about. There's all this data.
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh.
See, this is what happens when you're live, raw, and real.
Lost a little bit of your question.
Just a little bit.
And you're still, you're,
So the question is, for somebody who's so very green to all this, if there was one position from which you tell them to start, what is it?
Jeff, I'll start and then you go.
Oh, yeah.
I would say identify who the hell you are, okay? Not who you think you are, but who you are.
that's a post.
Yeah. And then second, I think you have to build a certain amount of consistency before you start getting fancy style, right? So you've got to keep some consistency across design, messaging, voice. We talk a lot about brand identity on our side, and one of the things that comes with brand identity is not just imagery and logos and color palettes and whatnot. It's a big part of that is verbal identity. So how does that, not how do you speak, how does the brand speak? Jeff, things to add?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're starting out, and most brands, especially in beverage and food, and they're probably thinking like, I'm going to do D2C, right? DTC, and I'm going to set up a Shopify site. I'm going to sell. The thing about it is that everybody knows what their experience is in terms of brick and mortar. But somehow with the website, they look at it as a different thing, but it's so similar. And here's an example. Like if I was, talking to a founder.
Mr. Marco just joined the line just to let
Oh,
you guys
nice.
know you're present.
Everybody gets the flyers from their grocery store. In the flyer, there's sale items, there's regular items that they just want you to buy and come in. And you walk into the grocery store and there's end caps. There's different things that are happening. Like you hear, oh, there's a sale today. You hear it over to the intercom. If you thought about your website in the same way and merchandise it the same way, thinking about it like this isn't just something I'm going to build and then forget about. This is something that I'm going to work for me. I'm going to use seasonality. I'm going to put in some offers. I'm going to put in some bundles maybe and things like this. This is stuff that everybody as a consumer knows and experiences. So it shouldn't be something that is
You guys are popular, by the way. I'm sorry. I'm as you talking, I'll let Adam ask the questions. Jay Williams just showed up on.
Oh, well, then that's it. Like,
I mean, my
he's the
God.
most.
And then Miss Marco, Duncan.
Yeah.
And then my gosh, Robert from Kogan. From,
Oh yes, Robert Kogan.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so it's like, hey man, you guys are like rock stars.
But I'm telling you, Jay is the most famous person I know. But I had to get that out there. But I guess what I'm saying, Adam, is that you can work with stuffs in a small scale, but I think Peter has it right. Like what this is about in the beginning, it's about building community, right? And building community doesn't mean posting about your product on social. It means
we got to answer your communities right here.
Yes,
asking a lot of questions.
you gotta interact with people, right? You have to get them to know you, and you're telling your brand story to them for the first time. So you can start small, but you have to have that fundamental stuff done, the foundation done, before you can go out and reach other audiences.
Couldn't agree more. And it's I say this. I feel like I say this every week. We were talking about this before we went live. I've not been doing this 20, 30, 40 years, but I have friends that.
All right, we keep on losing him. So why he comes back? Why don't we go to some of the questions from the? You just talked about community.
Yes.
Let's go to the community. Let's start with Duncan. Duncan, I know
Okay.
it's late out there, and you're probably ready for bed. It's 8 o'clock, sir. So you probably want to get to bed. So he's. Let's start with Duncan here. I'm gonna try to go through my phone here. He's. Well, I can't say this, but his show is so effing hot. I couldn't miss it. Jeff is always laughing and crying at the same time.
Right.
Uh,
That's
All
true.
right, let's see if I can get to his questions. Lots of love. Okay, so he asked a question here. Peter is able to speak about what brands can learn from David Bowie. He speaks Bowie fluently. So why don't we let's go to that question, Duncan, and Peter, if you can answer, that would be great.
Sure. Well, is the question that do I speak it fluently or why?
He says, yeah, he said you speak in David Bowie, and I'll go back to it again here, make sure I get this right here, because I don't want to. Let's see here. He fired up so many questions. I was like, I got to just keep up here. All right. Peter is able to speak about what brands can learn from David Bowie.
Yeah, I mean, I think what brands can learn from David Bowie. David Bowie was the chameleon. He was a chameleon. He was able to inhabit and become so many things, but they all tied back to the one core brand of who he is. He's David Bowie. And what's interesting, and I've been talking recently a lot about people like Prince, or like David Bowie, or Elton John, and going, they were masters at reinvention and masters at sort of rebranding without losing their core audience. So many businesses are afraid to rebrand because they don't want to offend anyone. And we've gone through this and said, dude, look, if you've got a core group of loyalists, right, and they don't want to, they're going to stop buying your product because you changed the color, then they're not freaking loyalists in the first place. Don't
Right.
But the people that are, they're going to stick with you. And the only way to reach new audiences is to evolve. So someone like David Bowie had such a mystical, magical way of having no fear and just changing with the times, not kowtowing to an audience, not kowtowing.
Is that a song, Changing with the Times, by the way? I don't know. Maybe.
Times. I don't know.
Changes.
Work it afterwards. But all of those artists had something in common, which was they had a core brand, and they were able to evolve it without losing any of their base audience. And they changed with the times. That's why they lasted for decades and decades and decades. David Bowie, great example. Even after death, he's still a force to be dealt with.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. Like it, one thing that always struck me. I was a musician for a long time.
I'm doing this for Duncan, by the way. He's like, how much is Starbucks paying for this?
I don't understand though, Sam. You're holding up a Starbucks cup and you're saying Duncan at the same time. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay,
but
so we got to work on my branding here. So
Right.
this should say Adam's company or my company on this. Adam, we need to do branding here for.
But I was just gonna say with Bowie, what was interesting is like when I don't know if you remember, I'm probably dating myself, but Modern Love had come out and it was a big hit. But it was introducing him, David Bowie, to a whole new audience. They didn't know Ziggy Stardust. They didn't know any of that stuff. They were just like, oh, I like this guy David Bowie now, because he was able to reinvent himself time after time, and I think brands are like that. We see it all the time. We see, oh, here's a brand refresh. Sometimes it's a brand refresh. Sometimes it's bigger, but. I think brands have to evolve over time to reach new audiences.
Okay, no, Duncan keeps on firing here. So this is okay. So brand needs to know their audience, but he's asking the question. You study psychology, Jeff, and evidently you made a 3-point shot at Duke. Are you a basketball player? And how does that tie into brands, Duncan? I'm not sure, but I'm going to throw that out there. You did a 3-point. Yeah, what's the story behind this?
I don't know.
I think you're talking about Jeff Lefkowski.
Yeah, maybe.
Lefkowski.
I mean, I do love basketball, so it's not far off. But
I'm sorry to throw you guys off. I'm just pitching stuff here.
No, I know.
Jay Williams just put in there. I hate the term pitch slap. I don't even know where that's coming from. Did we say pitch slap? Did we just say pitch slap? Adam, did we say pitch slap?
I don't know.
Did we? I didn't say it.
I don't know.
I mean, I like Hitch Slap because I used to listen to Christopher Hitchens, but but pitch slap, yeah. But I was just gonna say, it's funny with sports. The thing that I admire most about sports is that it's the teamwork part, right? Because you can always identify, especially with teams that have a really amazing player on them, but the rest of the team isn't really supporting each other. You can tell. Like that player could still get 30 points on a basketball game and they would lose every time. And the point that I see in that is something I always like to talk about, which is the relationship of sales and marketing. So sales and marketing, it's always this thing where there's some confusion on what role each one plays, but they can't play well unless they're playing together.
Are you a psychology major for real?
No.
Okay, because it sounds like it. Adam, I know you're coming in and out, man. So I don't know if you can check your bandwidth. You're back now. So
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can
Yep.
find the question if you want, and I'll pretend I understand it.
If you can read lips, I'll accentuate it.
Yeah. You're good.
yeah.
So-
And help me
so
fill
I'm-
these questions, Adam, while he's going, because I got Allison on my right-hand screen. I got Peter, Duncan, Jay's like throwing stuff out there. So if you want to fill some of those, great. Go ahead, Peter. Sorry.
Oh, me? No.
Yeah.
I think Adam, you were going to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got one for you. So I'm curious, and I love the Bowie example, and of course I no sooner send you a connection request on LinkedIn, and I get the Where the Dogs of Society Howl invite, which I love the callback to Elton there. So my question is, when you talk about like Bowie and knowing his core and then expanding from there, right?
Yep.
As a brand, again, new brand,
Yep.
how do you know when you've created your foundation and it's time to expand, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of brands go through that like yeah, I want to create my foundation, and then they either think, oh shit, it's not working. I need to I need to leapfrog to another island and try to see if that works, or they get dialed in, like you said, and we're only going to be this one thing, and then they die on the vine. So how do they know when the right time is to expand?
That's
And
such a great question.
like before you answer, this ties into Jay Williams' quote. He quoted Bowie, by the way, before you answer, Peter. He said, "My senior quote in high school was Bowie, and these children that you spit on as they're trying to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through." So how does that tie in answering Adam's question?
Jay must have been extremely popular in high school with that.
I bet.
I've seen pictures. He was.
No, he was cool in high school. He was like the quintessential collar pop dude. So my answer to that, and that's a great question, because I don't think there really is a silver bullet or foundational solid answer to it without trying to eke out of it, really. I think that, a lot of brands I see come to market and they're popping, they're banging, they're ready to go, but there's elements of what their brand design or their brand story that aren't ready yet. So they've kind of gone out in front of a huge audience, right? Let's use the music thing again. They've gone on stage in front of thousands, tens of thousands at Wembley, and then they're fucking tuning the guitar. Nobody's here for that, right? So you got to have that shit done at sound check. So I look at it and I go, how does a brand know if it's ready to go out on stage? First, sound check, tune that shit up. Make sure you're ready to go. I don't recommend approval by committee. You cannot ask you can, but you really don't need to ask your tax preparer, your wife, your cousin, your sisters and uncles, pet, pooch, what they think. Because really, unless they're part of your core audience, it really doesn't matter what they think. Plus, once you've involved all these other voices in your head, you don't know what to do. Now you're being pulled in multiple directions. So I think for a brand to know it's ready is to really focus hard on that consistency and that brand story, who their audience is, and what they're trying to communicate to them. What's the value, what's the benefit? That's first. And then I think after you've been in market for a while, you'll start to notice sort of stagnations maybe, or huge growth spurts. And those are the things that start to inform you of where you are. I think you do have to settle for a while. Brands don't just come out of the womb, walking, talking, and selling. they have to learn to crawl first, and they have to learn to
Well,
walk.
so when I first met y'all, I mean, we've known each other for a while, going back and forth. I don't know if Peter was you or Jeff. I think it was you, Peter, and maybe Jeff. But a brand said, "Hey, what do you think about my package?" And you're extremely honest. I think you said like, "No, it sucks."
Yeah, I think about that once in a while. I'm going, you're such a dick. Why can't you just be kinder? I can't. I learned that there's sometimes reading the room. Well, no, reading the room is the most important part.
Well, someone
Right.
has to be honest, right? You're that
I was going to
person.
get away with that in that instance. Plus, I had driven 2 hours, so I was like, dude,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not.
He's cranky.
Anyway, yeah, I think that sometimes brands are missing out on an element of design that when you have a founder who insists on the design work themselves or driving it, it's interesting to me because you may hire an agency that costs you a good amount of money, and this is what they do, and this is all they do. You really need to learn to trust those creative partners. You need to learn to have one that's reliable and trustworthy that you believe in and follow their guidance. You know, that's the point, is that they're not there, they shouldn't be there just to make a fast buck off you. They're there to help you succeed. You know, we've had plenty of clients that don't ever end up on our portfolio, and there's a reason for that. And that's heartbreaking to know you've done a lot of work, but you're not going to show it because it ain't what it should be. So I think that
I'm streaming your friend Allison. Can you see the stream I'm putting on? She's
Yes.
talking about you, by the way. So I'm learning as I'm going as you're talking. So
good.
Adam will keep me honest. I'm trying to answer all these questions. You guys are so popular that my phone is blowing up. Keep on going. Adam, you guys have questions. So
We're like Saturday morning.
You know, the only thing I would add too is, you know, you have to be slow and steady with a lot of this. That there isn't this magic, you know, thing that you're gonna throw into the mix and all of a sudden you're gonna be poppy. You know, it's just not gonna happen. So, like, I mean, that's not the usual. So, what's most important really is, you know, we talk about this all the time, is the, you know, push and pull, right? So the idea that if you're constantly pushing, it's probably because you haven't done like the fundamental stuff with again, going back to community, building your community, right? So building that base of people that love you locally. Maybe you can expand regionally then, and then think about going, you know, national. But the idea here is that you have a community of people that, you know, they could talk to each other without you even involved, right? He's got props. But
hey man, you know, that goes really well in the algorithm of LinkedIn. If you do yourself holding the sign,
Yes.
by the way, you can get like 20,000 likes.
I know.
Crazy. So that one you should picture that one, post it, and your funnel's gonna fill up today. Sorry, Jeff.
Sweet.
no, that's okay. Like sometimes if you post, it's funny. Sometimes if you post less, you get more. Like that's just the way it works on LinkedIn. Like if I'll post today, I'll put tariff and nothing else on the post and see what
I try to
happens.
keep up with you, Jeff. You post a lot. I mean, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I got to get to Jeff, my friend
Yes.
Jeff,
He's
right?
a
And I'm
serial
like,
poster.
he's a serial poster.
I have this team of Oompa Loompas that take care of things for me. Anyway, but I guess what I'm saying is that you build slow and steady. Curtis Knight, who has a Lemonicious product, he's probably should do a TEDx talk about slow and steady. He's really building his base for his product. He's going to like all of these fairs and in different places in person, right? He's getting the community together before he expands through retail. And I think most brands need to do that. They need to do that work. Even when we had as a guest Chris Kirby from Ithaca Hummus, and that's how they got started. They were at farmers markets selling hummus, and look how far they've gone. But they had to start somewhere, and I think that's the hard work. You have to do the work on the ground, do those samples, get in front of people, have those discussions and everything before you can really grow and expand your brand.
All right,
I'm
thinking.
curious.
You're thinking
Oh,
over
you got
there.
something to say?
Go ahead. You're good.
So I'm curious when you talk about tuning the guitar at band practice, not at Wembley, right? Again, I love the analogies. What is that from a brand stand? Like it's easy. It's a very easy thing to conceptualize from a musician standpoint, or like being a stand-up, right? Practice your jokes in front of the mirror before you go do them on stage. But like from a brand perspective, I think you're right. I think a lot of brands are eager. They're like, oh, we want to go play a show. It's like, dude, you don't know a basic chord yet. Figure that out. But what does that look like? What does that work actually look like to practice, if you will?
I think in the beverage world, it's developing that flavor profiles and the process with which you are creating the product.
Sure.
You're going to have to start there, and you're going to have to test. You're going to have to test sort of. I think in some ways you test silently. You quietly back channel it. You get people to see what's working, see what's not, and then you may move on to what kind of packaging this is going to go in, what works, what doesn't, what's effective. If you're coming out with a sustainable, earth-friendly product that is in a plastic bottle, you've already made a huge epic mistake, right? Or if you're coming out with some kind of, liquid yogurt drink in a paper carton, it's like, whoa.
Right.
It's a little dry heaving. So you have to start with those basic things. And then it's interesting to me because sometimes people pull up and they go, we're ready. And my Aunt Hilda designed the logo. Put it on, let's go.
See, Adam loves this stuff because he'll get into that. I don't know. So I'm gonna put Allison's question on the thing to see if y'all can read it. This is in real time. So she has a pretty big question about Sprouts and national. Jeff or Peter, you want to take this one? But can you see it?
Launch nationally in Sprouts, for example, to increase market awareness. I often worry about these fantastic brands who launch but then get discoed. Discoed?
Yes, discontinued.
You want to start with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're launching there, you probably need to set up, some in-person marketing, right? So some samples and, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Just even going back to the previous question, how important, like with the tuning at Wembley, when you're doing an event, when you're planning an event, plan what you think the experience will be for the person who's gonna approach your booth or go into your space or whatever it is. Like think about it strategically where there's a you're trying to develop an experience, right? The experience isn't just, oh, we're gonna have these flyers they can take, right? Because that isn't an experience. The experience is like, what's the interaction gonna be like? What are the points that you're gonna make? I mean, salespeople do this all the time. They create a list of sales points that they want to cover. They want to make sure that they cover. But it's important for a brand too to communicate what it's all about to people. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to add to that too, before I forget it, because my mind is like a sieve, right? See, I already forgot it. No. That experience of like getting into a store of that size and then sort of getting disconnected and plateauing and sort of becoming a background player all of a sudden. And you were talking about sampling. And one of the things I remember we did really well at Disney, we weren't a sampling company, but a lot of times we had teams out in supermarkets, huge chain supermarkets all over the country. And they would do a show and a thing, and it was usually sponsored by somebody that paid for them to be there, and they were shilling whatever cheese while they were doing it. But here's the thing. When I go to a store and see a sample thing, it's somebody standing there walking around awkwardly with a tray of cheeses, and we don't know how long they've been out. But there's one thing that happens. I get a toothpick, I stab a piece of cheese, I go, delish. And they go,
I'm heading to Costco after this call, man. I'm heading to
when you have a little table set up, this is one thing that I always learned, and this is a back for brands and back for building your brand and your strategy. When you see those tables at a supermarket, often what you'll see behind it are boxes of product all laid around and askew and some trash on the floor, someone's sweatshirt hanging on the edge of a chair. That's just garbage marketing. I look at that and go, the whole experience of walking up to that table and I can see underneath the skirt of the table all the bullshit under there, that's no good. So I look at that as something as simple. You've got a great product, right? It's balls on. Everything about it is great. The packaging's stellar. But the table and the space in which I am experiencing your product is messy and grungy. Someone's got a piece of pizza on. No, you never eat behind the table. So I look at it and I go, part of this experience is, try my cheese. Okay, did you like it? Great, tell me why you liked it. Tell me what you don't like. Answer a trivia question and I'll give you 3 coupons to go get it in aisle 9.
Right.
And they go, oh yeah, I love trivia. Bang, bang, bang. Now I'm engaging. The longer you're there, I give you something, you get something, you go away, and nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. So instead of just handing out cheese or beef frank nuggets, make an experience, make it a conversation. People will see that someone's talking to you and something's going on and they got something and they're laughing and smiling. They'll come over. And that's how you move it. That's how you get going. That's how you push the brand further out. That's how you become not disconnected. And that's how Sprouts goes, what the fuck, what's going on over there? We got to get those guys at an end cap. That's my thought.
It's funny. I have a brand that we represent, and they got into Sprouts. We're going to sell like 100,000 cans. But you're right. What happens after you sell them, right? And then I've talked to another brand owner. He was around for like 8 to 10 years out of Chicago. He was in Target and all the big places. He had cold boxes, the whole bit. He closed down his shop, in the last 60 days, after like an 8 to 10 year run, so it just doesn't happen magically at the end of the day.
And there's nothing to stop an owner or a founder, because look, these smaller brands often have limited resources, right? They're a 1 and 2 person crew, or maybe just a skeleton crew. Sam, there's nothing to prevent someone from the brand going into that store, a Big Y or whatever it is, Sprouts. And, you find your product on the shelf, you clear them all off, put them in the basket next to you, just clear it out. Maybe leave one there. And then take some TikTok videos of just how it's selling out and how it's going. Then you can put them all back and go about your way. But you're creating sort of this urgency. And I'm not saying lying, but you're creating the scenario. You go, how could I do that? I can't do that because it's not actually selling. No, you just that's advertising. You make it appear as you need it to appear. And you say, we had 80 cans here last week. Now we've got 2. Wow. And now people are going to go, oh shit, I better run down there and get
I love that. I don't know if you know Boone's Bourbon. I don't represent him or anything, but he always does a video where he's like does a tasting. He's walking into like a Total Wine and More stuff like that. Then he shows his bottles and the consumers around it, and he's showing like things are happening. And he's I think it's genius on his part. He's building on LinkedIn. He has quite a following on like YouTube and Instagram. But he does what you're saying. You see, he's constantly out there talking about his brand, how he's doing his tastings. He's down in Tennessee. The whole bit. Is that what you're saying? Stuff like that?
It is. I mean, you don't need a huge team. If you can't afford it, look, the reality is that, if you can afford big, if you can afford Arnold as an agency, great, go nuts, You should be able to alleviate, an agency or some kind of, team that helps you. That's supposed to alleviate stress and day-to-day. So I think it's important that people realize that you don't have to have all that stuff. You can create the situations that you need. And again, like the Disney thing, you know why they put Snow White back in the vault for 20 years? Because nobody was buying it. So what do? They put it in the vault for 20 years, they take it back out, and everybody wants it now.
Yeah, we got a carrot.
So
look
you
at my carrot.
You can create, no matter what size business you are, I think you can create those senses of urgency. You can create the hype. If there's 2 clubs and there's a huge line in front of one and no one in front of the other one, which one are you going in?
Right.
You're going in.
Yeah.
You're going to go get in the line.
Adam, too. Another thing, too, and we run it, and I'm sure, this is the case, but you can start small, even with an agency. It's not like we talk about this all the time. You don't have to get married, right? You can date first. So, so the thing about it is that every business is at a different place, right? When they approach us, and so it's not cookie cutter, right? So a company that's making $500 million a year in revenue is not in the same place that of a startup, and the idea here is give them enough so that if they're doing it themselves, let's say like social media, give them enough direction and enough ideas for interesting campaigns, let's say for advertising, that they can go and run with it and then come back when they need some more. This isn't about, it's not about like doing everything all at once because that's impossible in terms of resources, right? But as you keep building, there'll be more resources to put towards marketing. I mean,
Well, that's what you said to me, Jeff. I think when you and I and Pierre were talking, is that you can grow with your client, right? Like my partner Alicia says this. I know Adam says this all the time. Is what is it you say about clients? It's like I know you don't have a lot of money or whatever. I can't remember the term you always use every podcast. I should know this in my head. But
The I don't know if it's PC, but the industry term is pre-revenue, which I fucking love because it means broke, right?
right.
It means, and that's so it's that. And my comment to folks is always like, I'll meet you where you're at. Like if you've got several $1,000s and you want to retain me to do everything under the sun operationally, God bless, right?
Yeah.
If you've got $150 once a month and you want to talk to me for an hour ish, we can do that too. I do not care. I purely just want to be of the most assistance I can for where you're at.
But there's one thing you always say is like, don't tell me how much money you don't have. What is that you always say? I know. Let's just call it as you don't have money. There's something you always say if you think about it. I mean, you say it every podcast when we talk about brands. We
It's
need
so funny
to.
'cause I'm sure it'll come to me the minute we get off the phone.
Well, that's fine. I mean, if you think of it, just blurb in and interrupt us here.
Yeah, and just one last thing too, in terms of like, it's
broke.
it's
Is it broke?
oh, it's it could be broke, right? No, I was just gonna say, like, in terms of like, yeah, it's a nuance thing. It's an expense, right? Marketing and advertising, all that stuff, but it's not. It's an investment. It's just like buying a machine that that's gonna make your product. Having a realistic expectation in terms of how you're going to grow your company and not having what's considered like industry standard of, let's say, 5 to up to even 20% of your revenue used for marketing. If you don't have that kind of realistic understanding, like maybe you do need more investors and things like that at that point. But the point is that you can't go to market. Anyone can't really go to market with a brand new product and not have like at least 10% of their revenue earmarked for marketing. You
Yeah,
can't.
one of our partners, they're a big agave. They have like access to every agave distiller in Mexico that Alicia and Bev Assets is a partner with. But they talk about one of the things they do is kind of the pre-conversation with brands are like, hey, these are the things you have to do. 20% in marketing, like you said, 10% in trade development, and packaging this. And if they don't have it, they're like, look, we're not the right stop for you.
That's right.
So they pre-qualify them.
Yep.
Quite
I
frankly.
was going to go back to something Allison, when she was talking about Saratoga Water,
Yeah.
and Cheers and what they were up to, and she asked me about the club analogy, and I want to give you an example of entrepreneurship, I think, at its best, and I rarely think of it this way, and I go, yeah, that's what this was. So I was in a band for many moons and played in clubs all over Boston and in California, and that was our lifestyle. That was our thing. Now, at the time, everybody and their brother was out on the street handing out flyers for their show, for their show, for their show. And the last thing anybody ever needs or wants is another flyer, right? So one of the things we did when we realized that this was just not going to ever work the way we wanted it to, the band was called Throat Culture. And what we did, now, you got to get all the paper, you got to make some artwork, you got to print these things in the thousands. 50,000 flyers will probably get you about, maybe 1,000 people if you're lucky. Probably closer to 500. And that's not cost effective, nor is that time, it's also time consuming. So one of the things we did in this band, Throat Culture, was we went out and bought throat depressor sticks, right? Those cost, 80 cents for a box of 1,000, right? So as young musicians, we have no money. We're eating ramen if we're lucky. There's an expense saved, so we've got that. What did we do next? We used a rubber stamp to stamp the name of the band and the date of the show and the club on it. Bang, bang, bang. We could sit there with our friends and drink beers and do whatnot and just stamp these things all evening, and we'd have thousands of them.
So at the tasting table, should I bring a stamp at my tasting table and just
Right.
start showing people?
But I mean, I would go out on the street with the gang, if you will. We were like
Yeah.
a gang. We would go out on the street and just hand these things out in the thousands, and everybody was like coming over to get one. People that weren't even ever going to come to the show.
Right.
They just wanted whatever it was. What is it? And that's how we packed clubs. And it was innovative. It was different. It cut through the bullshit of the flyers, what everyone else was doing. No one could duplicate it because they weren't named Throat Culture. And, it was just a way to reinvent the process. And this is what, Adam, I think, a lot of startups need to think about is how can I reinvent simple things? How can I take the simple steps that are traditional or status quo or expected, and how can I look at them in a different light and leverage them in a different way? And that's, if you need a partner to do that, you find one.
All the brands we market, by the way, Adam is our target audience, by the way. So just know that. We always talk about this. I'm not. So we're actually going to do a Gen Z boomers and Gen X kind of podcast. So
Nice.
at some point we'll invite you guys on. But anyway, he is the target.
A lot of great questions in here. A lot of great comments. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Can you see the questions coming in?
Yeah, when you bring them up. Yeah.
If you want to kind of help me field these things,
Sure.
Duncan was trashing us earlier, but it's all positive trash, by the way. It was good.
Yeah.
And Duncan, thanks for being here. Bring some questions on for these guys. I know you know them. And
Well, I'm in the chat. I don't see. Okay, I'm not seeing the.
well, I can see Adam can field some of the stuff to see that Robert brought a lot, as well as Jay Williams. People prefer honest feedback. Robert, tall order, Duncan. I don't know. Trying to see if I get back to Duncan here, but he might be in bed. But someone said, Robert said he speaks U2 and baseball.
Yeah, man. I love it. U2, obviously, a long-term, incredible band. They've come a long way since their tight, tapered jeans and big poofy hair. They've changed with the times. Unfortunately, I think they may have hit a bit of a wall since Utopia.
Yeah, I mean, U2. The thing about U2 is, and for Peter and I, because we grew up around the Boston area, that's where they were introduced. There's such a huge Irish community in Boston, and that was the first entry point into the U.S. was through Boston.
Yeah,
Wow.
they actually played the Rat, which is a place I had, the Rathskeller.
So Adam found something in the thing he had when he was going to ask a question.
Well, and I'm trying to ride the line between being able to field comments and read these and losing my bandwidth again. But something we had, I forget who it was, is someone we've had on the podcast before made the comment, and I've always loved hearing this, that going back to what you said originally, Peter, the brand's voice or the brand itself is not, like, you as the brand owner are not the brand. They're two separate entities. And I love hearing people talk about that because, again, as somebody who helps work in this space, like, it makes sense. But I think for a lot of brand owners, they feel like they have to be one and the same, right? And so maybe give us your opinion or your feedback on that.
I mean, it's rare that a founder or CEO or brand owner is actually their own audience. I mean, it happens,
Yeah.
but like when you're trying to do something as simple as social media for a client, or someone on the team in your internal team is doing social media for you, and that owner is hawking over them, watching every single piece of text and needing to change a line. I don't know, like the picture, and I don't That's great, because you know what? These organic posts are going to disappear off the feed in about 90 seconds. So let's make sure we spend 2 weeks trying to get it perfect, right? Because it doesn't sound like me. Well, it shouldn't sound like you, because you, sir, Tom, Bill, Frank, Sally, you're not the brand. You're not a package of noodles. You're not a bag of coffee.
Right.
You're a human being that owns a business. So stay the out of it.
I got a question from Jay Williams. All right, so I'm fielding questions, so I'm not doing a good job of paying attention over here. But does a brand need to be shocking or provocative to get attention like LD does? Well, Liquid Death, I guess what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Does, or should it build a community? For example, a brand like Freebird. Yes, great call out, Freebird.
Freebird.
Well, Freebird fans. I got to get, that's my new sponsor, by the way. He doesn't know it yet, but Freebird is our new sponsor.
Oh,
Thanks,
nice.
Jay, for
Send him the bill.
My pool this
have
summer.
you heard of Freebird? Yes, we're Freebird again.
Yeah.
The impressions you're getting today are incredible, Jay.
I'm going to fill my pool with it this summer. That way I can swim in this cool, crisp, refreshing southern water, and I can drink it while I'm in there. No, to answer that
I'm gonna
question,
give him a
Oh,
bump.
my God.
There it is.
Yeah, I know Duncan is losing his mind in India right now. He's like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I'm losing my
Jay,
mind.
Jay, I'm
Williams
gonna.
is taking over the podcast again.
I'll send you my address, Jay. You can
Yeah.
send me the check.
Invoice.
Right, you got two sponsorships. We got one for Brand Antarctica and Drink Up, and then whatever next. So it's great.
I love it. I think Jay's got a great point, and I do think it leads back to what Adam had asked us at the very beginning. Who are you? As the caterpillar asks Alice from atop his mushroom stool. Who are you? Liquid Death is wildly interesting and crazy and nutty and off the wall. That's their thing. Freebird, on the other hand, and this is really interesting because Jay is one of those people that as a founder and owner, he's not in any way, shape, or form, and we've talked to him on our podcast, he's right in there in the mix, and he gets it, and he knows which lane he should be in and when to duck in, duck out, and I think he's very good at it. I was saying that the brand of humor they're using on their website, I love, because it's very snarky, it's subtle, and it's cheeky, and it's clever. And, it's not the same thing. So does a brand need to be combative or combustible or shocking to make it? No. Who are you? If you're an emotional brand and you're pulling at the heartstrings, then that be that. Not everyone is funny. And being funny, by the way, and we all know this, is one of the hardest things to do because it's so subjective. It's a huge risk to take. So if you go let's be wildly outrageous and funny, you better be freaking funny.
Yeah, well, I can't keep up with Jay. All honestly, I saw like 3 posts. It's kind of like Jeff. He's like Jeff. They post like every hour, right? And I literally don't have like someone in India posting for me. It's me and my
Right.
wife Sally. And Jay did a post on this, by the way. So I'm posting. My wife's, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm trying to reply back to Jay. And
Right.
then Jeff, I'm trying to reply back to him. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to, power post up just to try to keep up with.
Well,
my friends.
that's a good point actually, Sam, because there is a difference between the founders having their personal brand is important to me. I think, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, but even on like Instagram and TikTok, there's an opportunity there. But the personal brand is different than the brand. Those are the two different things. And we see this on LinkedIn especially. Unbun is not Mark Samuel, right? Those are two different things. It's his business, but he has his own persona, his own personality, his own personal brand on LinkedIn. And I don't think of his brand directly when he makes a post because it's typically not about his brand. It's about him. And I think in the end, what's important for a founder is to establish a personal brand because people like to work with people. It's not about working with a brand, especially in the B2B space. It's about the people. And so the trust in the people is going to lead to a trust in the brand.
And that's what, to that Jay's point, is that I agree 100%. I do think that a founder does need to be involved on social media.
You scared off my co-host. What
I
the
know, what happened?
He like disappeared.
Where did he go?
I know he'll come back. He
Well,
said
I'm gonna-
he goes, hey man, I'm having internet issues, so I'm gonna hop off, but I'll message the guys and tell them thanks. while I go put on my tech support hat.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I think it's.
I love that.
We even recently we have a bank client that I was saying, you know, your bank is just like all these other banks in the region are experiencing the same opportunity. And I said, you know, what drives me nuts is that you guys are not taking advantage of this. And I'm seeing the president of other banks come on to LinkedIn and actually share their information and say, you know, we know everyone's concerned about this, that, and the other thing. Here's my direct line. Here's my direct email. And if you have questions, I can explain and help you, you know, get through this thing. And the client of ours said, well, the CEO, the president, he doesn't really like social media, so he's not going to do that. And I thought, it's not about you. I don't care if you like social media or not, but you are a human being. You're the head of the head of the snake. You need to be visible and you need to be available. Otherwise, how can you claim to be a place with a human touch where community is important if you're unwilling to participate in the conversation? So I think for founders and CEOs, absolutely. You are not the business, the brand page does one thing, you do another. You feed each other. And that's important. That makes success.
Yep.
Let me fire another question here, and Jeff, you can take this one. All right, this is from Allison again. I'm gonna put it on the screen. How can you encourage a founder to get more vocal in their own personal branding experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you know, you don't have to be like front and center and speak to a camera because you know, even for myself, like, you know, doing videos of myself talking and that kind of thing. I think you really can start small. A lot of it in the beginning could even just be relevant content that you're sharing with people, right? So, you know, just being able to start off by looking at some content that, you know, is going to not only connect about who I am, but connect the consumer or business partner, potential business partner in terms of the business that you're running, right? So your brand, it's just about not, and again, not thinking like you're going to have to create these very clever posts every time on social. It can be about your, you know, leaving your 2 cents, your point of view on things that already are part of the discussion. And that's a good way to start is to just, you know, look at it like, you know, what's your hot take on something? Because that's how people get to know you. They get to know you by what your opinions are, what your thinking is, your strategy is behind the
That's what you
decisions you
guys have
make.
done for your brand, right? So Brand Arctica is a brand, right? So
Yeah.
when I follow you and engage you, as a matter of fact, it's funny. When I get up in the morning, there's just certain people I want to go talk to. Peter, so get ready. I'm going to show up on your feed at like 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Like, what the heck is he doing? Is he sleeping or whatever? I'm like, so give me some love. And by the way, you know, Jeff, you gave like all these other people call out and love today. I'm like, how did I get my name and the call out from Jeff?
Yeah.
You'll be on the next one.
Ray Williams gets called out by everybody, but it's
So
great.
important. You know, I'll just add to that really quickly is that I think that what a lot of people, founders and CEOs, or anybody for that matter, you know, when you're looking at how do I work my personal brand into this? Look at your ands. Look at your profile headline. You know what? I'm a CEO. I'm a founder. I'm a designer. Well, what are you beyond that? Because nobody cares. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone they want to know you. So anybody can claim to be, you know, CEO, founder, president,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But like, what else are you? And this is where you get into the interesting part about the ands. I am all of those things, and I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a gardener, and those are things I can now talk about. Because those are things that are now relevant. And the other side of that is, for anyone, if you think about your content, what your expertise is, and create one core big piece of content on that. Now go through that piece of content and chip away little elements, each mini content pieces. And now you've got more content. And then you take that layer and chip it into smaller pieces. And now you've got 2 months worth of content out of one piece that you can just put out there. And that's how you build a process for this.
That's so brilliant. What I do is I essentially, some guys are going to knock my door and my dog's going to lose their mind. But anyway, that's so important. It took me a long time to find out who I am and what I'm about. And matter of fact, I know you're familiar with the House of Brick guys and Michael. I call him Mike Sensei, but he gave me the brutally honest truth. He goes, "No one cares you're in the C-suite. No one cares you were the vice president. Who are you? Like they want to know you." Like the authentic you. So, Michael, have you ever watched this podcast? I don't know if you give us some time. He might be drinking apple juice with his son. That's his favorite.
I think today,
driving his Volvo around New York.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, a couple of things just to wrap up. I know it's 10:30 on the hour, so I want to be respectful of y'all's time. First of all, thank you for joining. This is by far the best Drink Up podcast ever hit. So you guys are like rock stars. So thanks for doing us an honor to come on the podcast.
Oh, please. Thank you for having us.
I said, I'm coming on that show.
I know.
I'm going to get up and come
I
on.
got the email like yesterday afternoon. It's like, is Peter invited to the show?
Yeah.
Out. Peter's fucking freaking out again.
Peter's like my whoopee. I can't go anywhere without him.
Yeah, he's like the ass. I'm like, well, of course. I'm going to disinvite you, Jeff, and we're going to bring Peter on.
That's okay. Oh, sorry.
My dogs are going to definitely lose their mind.
We do a lot of tandem things, and we do a lot of things together. And as you experienced in the very beginning, sometimes we need to be like just muzzled, like stop talking.
Right.
Well, that's what you got me. I'm just going to just come in and just interrupt you.
You gotta. There's nothing worse than a guest, Sam, right? That doesn't talk.
Right.
Well, especially when you're live raw and real. Like I have people, do you have a script, like a thing that you follow, an agenda? I'm like, no. You just come on, have coffee with me, and the whole bit. So.
It's a dog.
But as the dogs bark here, losing their mind.
Peter, those are dogs of society.
This is live raw. I'm just going to let them. Just see. Hold on a second. I'm gonna let them out. Hold on a second.
Okay, yeah.
Sounds like my dog.
Talks amongst yourselves.
Jeff, how are you today?
Huh?
Pretend nobody else is here.
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks. Thanks.
That's how we go. So just to wrap up, guys. Sorry about that with the dog barking. But that's what I love about this. I kid you not. I was on with Duncan on his Firebelly social hour. And he had me on, and he records it right. He does a really nice job. So I'm talking to him, and this black cat flies over, and he goes, "Oh, I'll edit that out." I'm like, "No. You got to leave the black cat in. That's what makes this authentic, man. The whole bit." So
yeah.
But
serendipity.
So I want to give both of you the floor, right? So each of you, what would you want to leave everybody with about your company, about your experiences? Great information here that you've shared this morning, but what do you want to leave the people to leave this conversation with today?
Jeff, go. You first.
Well, I think one of the things is that we're super accessible. Like this isn't about like set up a meeting with us so we can bill you ridiculous amount of money. Like we're accessible. Ask us questions. Like I always ask people, just reach out to me if you have a question. I'm here to answer. Like both Peter and I have a lot of experience with way big companies. Like these were big billion-dollar companies, and we took a lot from that, and we're able to share it with other people. And it's not about like you hiring us and getting that us getting that retainer from you. It's not about that. It's about that we're very passionate about helping brands grow, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, so that's like the pro bono work we all do, right? That we generally we're not. You don't have to pay me to talk to me, right?
No.
We have some really good information, insights we'll give you, and look, if you want to take it further, great. Which I love that. That's great, Jeff. That's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything Jeff just said. And where we're concerned, I guess, is just being good partners for people. And they used to say, always be closing. Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. You'll get the fucking steak set, the steak knives, right? Number 2.
Yeah, the steak knives.
I always say, always be helping. Always be helping. ABH. It's not as catchy, but always be helping people. And finally, I guess when we look at Brandartica, we go, look, we're loud. We brand loud. We brand weird. Our brand has bite. And if you're looking for a safe option, something that's traditional we're not really that. We do it.
It's funny. I talk about the five people in a circle. I did a post. Obviously it was Chat GPT, and I'm like, tell me my five or whatever. But I want to put y'all in my five because one thing for sure, you're going to tell me, hey, look, your brand sucks. This is what we need to do and help us reinvent with the whole bit. So,
Man. So that's it. I mean, we're thrilled to have been here today. We've got our podcast, the 1/7, and we're talking to weirdos left and right and getting into their brains and figuring out what in the hell is happening up there.
Yeah.
And
Takes one to know one.
Yep.
guess I'm not weird enough to get on. I'm going to work on it.
You're on the list there, my friend.
Yes.
I'm editing it also, so like we're a bit behind. Yeah. So the newsletter is where Society's Dogs Howl. Is that it? Where
Yeah.
I fucked it up.
Where society sucks, you said?
No, we're the dogs of
Where the
society.
Dogs of Society Howl.
Hence my dog's barking. And,
Right.
by the way, Allison said, who here doesn't have a dog? Question mark.
So,
Yeah.
if you want to sign up, subscribe, it's out there. We're kind of do some LinkedIn lives at the same time. We're having fun. This is all we know, Sam. This is all
That's
I know.
great.
Yeah.
I don't have a degree.
We can't do anything else.
So
Yeah, if you guys are on the market to help, like, I'm looking for a producer. You want to produce my show? Our show?
I don't even want to produce our show.
Right.
Yeah, if you find someone, let me know. But thank you so much, both of you. It's funny. I go back to a post that Marina did when you went out and visited her. You took the time to go visit her. She was so proud. And it's for some reason it just stuck with me, and she's been so proud with learning about the whole bit, here. So this is why my wife's asking for a checkbook.
Someone's knocking on my door.
So she comes in, hey, can I have a checkbook? So hence, she's like paying someone a little bit. That's not for the IRS or complete. But I just think about that post she did, and you guys are really genuine, really good people. You took the time to go visit her. I know she has a brand that she's trying to develop. Maybe you're working with her on that.
We didn't even talk to her about that.
No, we didn't talk to
Yeah.
We talked about family mostly.
Well, that's good. Well, then, so you're real, right? You're authentic, and then maybe it transfers to something else. But I had a lovely time with her as well. But thank you so much for joining us. Thanks everybody for joining us on Drink Up this Saturday morning. Wishing everybody a great weekend.
Yes.
And we'll talk soon, guys. Stay on the line with me. A lot of times people forget when I hit stop, they go too. I'm like, you got to come back.
Yes.
Anyway.
Take a screen grab of us for posting later.
Yeah, go ahead. Do screen guy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Make a face. Give me something. Give me some love. Ha!
Are you screen grabbing?
It's
There
grab.
you go. Okay, there you go. All right, here we go.
I don't know.
Come
Jeff
stop.
looks like he's struggling to survive. I'm not sure what's happening there, but we'll figure it out.
What? Oh no.
No, that's okay. Now you.
So the funny thing is, we did a podcast with Cool Mox, Danielle, and happy to